The Sopranos is considered one of the best TV series ever made. David Chase's story of mob boss Tony Soprano managing his family life while continuing his criminal activities as a mobster while at the same time seeing a therapist about his panic attacks completely changed television. Whether it was the way each story was presented or challenging the viewer with its much discussed series finale, Sopranos clearly made its impact on television. Now, while many people have their favorite episodes, I want to review my personal favorite and probably a lot of other fans' favorite episode, which is Season 3's Pine Barrens. Not only is this a fantastic episode, it succeeds with such a simple premise for the main storyline. Paulie and Christopher get lost in the woods. Now your first thought is, what? Where's all the drama and the usual mob violence we're used to? Have no fear, as this episode doesn't need to rely on that. In fact, in my opinion, it's one of the funniest episodes in the entire series and stays entertaining throughout. One central theme throughout this episode would be the theme of boiling over, and it is shown in the main story arc of Paulie Walnuts and Christopher Moltisanti. Starting simple enough, Silvio is sick and can't make a collection, so Tony calls Paulie and asks him to do it. He brings Christopher along, and after Paulie provokes the Russian they're collecting from, a fight breaks out, ending with the Russian's windpipe getting cracked. Obviously not the day they wanted, the duo decides to dump the body in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. However, once they arrive, it turns out the Russian is still alive. They decide to have him do all the dirty work and have him dig his own grave in the woods. Distracted, the Russian bashes Christopher's head, knocks down Paulie, and runs off. A chase ensues as the two begin shooting at the Russian, ending with Paulie shooting him in the back of the head. Yet, the Russian gets right back up and runs off. Following the blood trail, they can't seem to find a trace of the Russian. Realizing they're lost, the two attempt to walk back to the car but get increasingly more lost in the Pine Barrens. Drastically unprepared, Paulie attempts to call Tony for help numerous times, but the cell reception being terrible causes a lot of miscommunication. Especially when Tony discovers that the Russian is connected to the Russian mob outfit that Tony does business with, resulting in one of the funniest lines in the entire episode.
It's a bad connection, so I'm gonna talk fast. The guy you're looking for is some kind of ex-commando or some shit. He killed 16 Chechen rebels single-handed.
T? T, that you?
Ah, damn it.
I didn't hear what you said, Tone.
So I'm gonna talk fast. The guy you're looking for is an ex-commando. He killed 16 Chechen rebels single-handed.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, nice, huh? He was with the Interior Ministry. Guy's some kind of Russian Green Beret. This guy cannot come back to tell this story. You understand?
I hear you.
There he is, Paulie.
Tone? Tone, you there?
Ah, fuck! Call me back!
You're not gonna believe this. He killed 16 Czechoslovakians. Guy was an interior decorator.
This house looked like shit.
As night falls, they shack up in an abandoned van. Tired, cold, and hungry, they find an old fast food bag and eat the ketchup and relish packets. Later that night, Paulie calls Tony trying to blame it all on Christopher, which results in Christopher overhearing and getting in a fight with Paulie, and pulling a gun on him. This was so incredible to see, as throughout the whole season there has been so much tension between Paulie and Christopher. Ever since Christopher became a made man, Paulie has been subtly messing with Christopher out of his resentment towards him. As Christopher is Tony's nephew, Paulie feels he's being short-sighted by Tony, favoring his nephew more than him, a person who's been a part of the mob family even before Tony was in charge. Getting lost in the woods was such an important character growth moment between these two, as their bullshit was put aside as it doesn't matter. As the way Christopher puts it,
"Fuck you, Paulie. Captain or no captain, right now we're just two assholes lost in the woods."
The next morning, they trek out and eventually are rescued by Tony and his uncle's driver, Bobby Bacala. They inform Paulie that his car is missing, which also has the collection money in it, which is all Tony wanted him to get. Tony asks Paulie to make an executive decision: keep looking for the Russian or go home. Paulie decides to leave, but Tony reminds him since he's a captain, he will take any responsibility that happens from this. Their story ends as them leaving the Pine Barrens after one hell of a day. To me, why this plot is so amazing is the fact that so much out-of-the-box shit happens to some of the funniest characters from The Sopranos. We've seen Paulie and Christopher's relationship reach a breaking point, and they're finally putting aside their bullshit. Well, at least for now. It plays like a one-act play. As genius that the David Chase is, he never mentions the Russian ever. Seriously, like you have no idea what happened to him. Is he dead? Did he survive and tell the Russians? The rest of the season plays out fine. It seems like shit just happened to our characters, but they just kind of shrug it off and say the hell with it. Ironically, David Chase has stated in interviews he never wanted to reveal the Russians' fate, as it didn't matter to him. He did say that if he did want to, what he would say would happen would be the Russian would be found by a couple of Boy Scouts who called 911 for help. Having brain damage, his boss at the Russian mob decides to send him back to Russia. That's it. So you can see why he chose to leave that point out. Not to mention, it makes the thought of the Russian keep your imagination alive. This show is just a brief glimpse of these characters' lives. We are merely guests.